And also the ETZ, if, do we have a vice chair of the ETZ?
Yes.
You want to call it to order?
Yeah, call.
I'm here, Lauren.
Oh, Milt's here.
All right. Good. All right.
Okay, go ahead, Milt.
Call a meeting to order for the ETZ committee.
Thank you. Item 2, roll call and declaration of a quorum by Secretary Parker for the Plan Commission.
All right. White,
Here.
Manel,
Here.
Cronin,
Here.
Burnt,
Here.
Jordan,
Here.
Gail Marshall is excused, Mumper,
Here.
and Maloney is filling in as alternate.
I'm here.
Okay.
Now you want to take roll call for the ETZ committee?
Yes. Olson,
Here.
Manel,
Here.
Christensen,
Here.
Cronin,
Here.
Hull,
Here.
and Grant.
Here. Thank you, Valerie.
Yep.
There's a quorum for both committees. Item next is public comment. Any public comment, either in person or if there's something later in the agenda that you wish to speak about? Or on social media, Michael?
Nobody has a hand up.
No hands up. Okay. Item 4, minutes from the January 10th, 2021 joint PC and ETC meeting.
I'll move for approval.
Moved by Minell, second by
Maloney.
Maloney.
Wait, ETC you said?
Yeah, it's both. It was a
Maloney.
joint meeting.
Okay. Plan Commission. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the Plan Commission to approve the minutes of the joint PC and ETZ meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried. Do you want to do yours, Minell?
Milton.
Bill?
You want approval of the ETZ, or is it was a joint meeting or joint motion, wasn't it?
Technically, you should also have your committee approve the meeting minutes.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting, January 10th?
I'll make a motion for the ETC to approve it. I'll second.
Motion made second to approve the January 10th, 2021 PC and ETZ meeting. Any discussion? Any changes? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Minutes stand approved as printed.
Thank you. Communications disclosures and recusals. Item 5, written communications received. Do we have any written communications? Next part of the agenda is public hearings. If the public wishes to speak at the hearing, please fill out the public comment form and register it with the clerk Parker prior to the start of the meeting. Please log in using the Zoom meeting information listed above and raise your hand to be recognized to speak. Valerie, do we have any written requests to speak?
I have not received anything.
I have not either.
We do have one or two audience members on Zoom,
Okay.
just your aware.
Okay, I'll make sure and ask during the hearing process if they want to speak during the hearing. Zoning map amendments, conditional uses and related requests. Item 6, adoption of the 2022 official zoning map and official extraterritorial zoning map for the village of Weston. This is for the PC and the ETC. I'll open the public hearing. Presentation by staff.
So basically, every year when we get the new parcels for the village and the town, we go through this process to adopt the zoning map. So this way, we only have to go back to the previous year. This will set the 2022 zoning map for the year, and it also gives us a historical picture of zoning through the years. So this is just something standard that we do. Both the Plan Commission and the ETZ do need to adopt it. And there's actually a link. I didn't want to blow up your packet, so we put it online because it's rather large.
So are there any questions of staff by the Plan Commission or the ETZ?
Are there any major changes?
No, so basically it just takes the map. We get new parcels every end of January. So basically Nate goes through, makes sure that everything that has been done throughout the year that you guys approve is put on the map. So it just, there's no changes to it at all.
What about the egg cluster? What is that?
Cluster. On the zoning map,
Yeah. It's on the Paul's property.
they went through that process with the ETZ.
So what, I guess I'm wondering what egg cluster actually is.
So that's when they went through and they got the extra parcel. So they were able to make a smaller parcel for the extra home that they put on it. So we
Alright.
went through a rezone process and we have to mark that on the map. Because it actually gets recorded on the deed. Because it's different than a regular zoning type, so it's kind of its own. That's something special that got put into the ET because the town wanted it. I don't remember exactly when that was. It may have been in 2020.
Alright.
It's been a while. I think Jared might have been here for that, so it's probably been a few years.
Any other questions for staff? Is there any comments by the public, either in person or by social media or by Zoom? Any other public comments? For time? Any other public comments? Hearing, and Michael, seeing none? I'm gonna close the public hearing. Recommendation from staff.
Staff recommends approval.
Next item is yours, Milt.
For motion to approve, see what we. Adopt the zoning map,
I'd move for approval.
I'll second.
motion made second to adopt ETZ zoning map for 2022. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the adoption of the zoning map for 2022 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, meetings, map is adopted officially.
Okay, item G, discussion and recommendation to the Board of Trustees by the Plan Commission.
I move to approve.
Moved by Cronin, second by Garrett. On the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried. Milt, I think this is the next item for you.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the ETZ committee?
So moved.
There's a second?
Second.
Motion made and second to adjourn the ETZ committee for February 2022. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? ETZ committee is adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
7 minutes. That's a record.
Okay, item 7, project number 20220014, Fritz Sherrill.
Chairman?
Excuse me. Thank you. Please let the record reflect that Mr. Garrett is recusing himself. Moving on, West Vest LLC, 2201 Madison Street, Stevens Point, Wisconsin, 54481, requesting a rezone from B2 Highway Business to PD Planned Development on 4 parcels known as 7808 Franciscan Way, 7702 Stone Ridge Drive, and lots 5 and 7 of the Cross Point Corporate Park, pins number 192-2808, 291-0029, and 192-2808, 291-0005, 192-2808, 291-0006, 192-2808, 291-0007. This is a PC. Now open the public hearing. The applicant here. Okay, presentation by the applicant. Step forward and name and address for the record, please.
Nick Bancic with Marathon Technical Services, 404 Franklin Street, Wausau, Wisconsin, on behalf of Fritz, Cheryl, and Westvest LLC. Fritz has owned these parcels since it was developed. I believe it was 16 or 17 years ago. The one that has an existing foundation on it, had a subway at one point, and the building burned down, has not had any development since then. Still has the parking lot, the dumpster pad, and the foundation and part of the building slab there. He's looking to redevelop that foundation with townhomes and an office space on the end. The office space would be like a shared office space, so if someone just wanted to rent one office, they'd have a common space for a lobby, a conference room, copier, bathroom, that sort of stuff. That is currently allowed in the zoning as it stands, but along with that, he'd like to transition the rest of that parcel and the other 3 parcels into multifamily. The other things that are in that Cross-Point development are mostly multifamily developments already. You have the Birchwood Highlands to the south. You have some CBRFs, which is, I guess, a little more institutional. There is a bank, I believe a dentist or a financial place, a dental office. Throughout the years, it's just shown that hasn't attracted more development. Otherwise, Fritz would have been happy to sell or to build something else there. So he's looking to change it to the planned development, just to allow him to have the multifamily capability and not have to have a mixed use building on each, or all the buildings to have a mixed use. So we've submitted concept plans for that first building right there. That would be the townhomes. These would be higher end townhomes. They all have 2-stall garages, 3 bedrooms. He's envisioning that these would be for people in the medical field that are looking for a place to stay, that maybe have a family that hasn't moved up with them, or new young professionals. And then you can see the office spaces on the far end there. The other pieces that he's looking at is doing 4-unit apartments or 8 to 12-unit apartment buildings. All would have attached garages for village zoning requirements. We just feel that this is a good use for the parcels, much better than vacant land. And it kind of fits in with what the neighborhood is already, which then transitions to residential to the south of Birchwood Highlands with a new Denian Homes development that's going in. They have some zoning there for multifamily as well.
Anyone on the plan commission have any questions?
Which lot do you plan to develop first?
The first one would be lot 6, which is the one that has the existing foundation, which is in that northeast corner. So they would develop that first, and then as that fills up, they would start working their way to the 4 units on the west side of that property. There's 2 4-unit buildings, and then the 8-unit on the southeast, yep, right there where the most is, and then they would work their way south and west as the market demands. We are proposing stormwater ponds on all the lots to meet DNR requirements. The ponds that are existing in Cross-Point, when they were designed and built originally, met the requirements, but they don't anymore. So each lot has to have their own to take care of infiltration and solid removal. They all have sewer and water service already.
So you're being asked to rezone this to the planned development, and they've submitted what's called the general development plan, and that will get recorded along with the zoning. And then what happens is at the time that they start developing this, they'll come back in with the specific plan,
Each site.
which is site specific, that'll have all the pieces of the site plan with it, and that'll come to plan commission for your approval. So you'll look at it to make sure that it still meets with that general development plan that gets approved tonight.
I have a question. This, if we do this rezone, it covers 4, 5, 6, and 7?
Yep, all the highlighted ones there, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
So do they have to then come back
Yeah, the way,
for each individual
yeah,
lot?
the way the code was developed, it'll come back for each time. They don't have to go through like a rezone, like you
Okay.
will see as the plan commission, the site plan. It doesn't allow staff to take it through the channels that we do.
I think it allows them more flexibility in what they want to do with those projects.
Fine with that.
At least that's my understanding.
And based on looking at it, really, the reason for it is more the use types than anything. They should be able to meet everything else, it looks like, but we'll go through that when the time comes.
Yeah, I don't think at this time we have any plans to ask for variance,
Yeah.
leniency for any setbacks or density or anything like that. I think we should meet all requirements of a typical multifamily zoning.
Is there any other questions for, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Nick?
For Nick?
I'm good.
I just one question.
Sure.
Mhm.
Step forward, name and address for the record, please. I guess we're in public comment period now.
Hi, I'm Kathy Jamison. My question was just for Nick. Are all of the 4, 5, and 6, you said they were higher end apartments, the plan, or is that for all of them or just that first one?
You want me to come back to the microphone
No, it's fine. Go ahead and answer.
or? Okay. The one you saw is just for the first one.
Okay.
Those 2 4-units on the west side, we plan to have something similar for that. And then the rest of them will probably transition into a less higher end. But it will also be what the market demands. If the market is really good for those higher end ones, then we'll continue with those. So.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other comments, either in person or online, Michael?
There's no comments online right now.
Yes. Any other comments for or against? Any other comments for or against? Hearing and seeing none, Michael? Close the hearing. Recommendation from staff.
Staff recommends approval. There is the zoning determination form.
Correct. That'll be the next part by the plan commission. Discussion and recommendation to the board of trustees by the plan commission. And we'll go through the determination like we have been doing most currently. When we get to that point, unless there's other discussion,
Vote for approval
I'll go through the discussion.
first? Okay.
Okay. Is everybody ready? Is a proposed zoning consistent with the comprehensive plan as required by Wisconsin statute?
Yes.
Yes. Does the rezone further the purpose and intent of this chapter?
Yes.
Yes. Number 3, does zoning address any of the following that are not properly addressed on the current official zoning map? I know you don't like me to read these very well. A mistake was made in mapping on the official zoning map, that is, an area is or has developed in a manner or in purpose different from that for which it was mapped. If this reason is cited, it must be demonstrated that the discussed inconsistency between actual land use and designated zoning is not intended, as the village may intend to stop an undesirable land use pattern from being perpetuated. Number 2, factors have changed such as the availability of new data, the presence of new roads or other infrastructure, additional development, annexation, or other zoning changes making the subject property more appropriate for a different zoning district. And number 3, growth patterns or rates have changed, thereby creating the need for a rezone.
Say number 3.
I
Agree?
Agree.
Okay. Number 3. Number 4, does the proposed zoning district maintain the desired consistency of land uses, land use intensities, and land use impacts as related to the ebb and wrongs of the subject property?
Yes.
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 Okay. Having gone through the determination, is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Moved by Maloney, second by Cronin to approve project number 20220014. On the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried. Thank you. Item 8. Project number 20220012. How do we pronounce that last name? Is that Black?
Bleak.
Great. Pardon?
It's bleak.
Bleak, thank you. Great
You're
Lakes
welcome.
Development 2020, Tracisnio Way, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54313, requesting a rezone from BP Business Park to LI Limited Industrial on the property known as 8706 Progress Way, PIN number 192-2808-234-0025 for this plan commission. Open the public hearing. Presentation by staff.
So this is the current Premier Sports Academy building on Progress Way. Mr. Greening is selling the property to Mr. Bleak's company, Great Lakes Development. They have plans to transition it back to manufacturing industrial tenant. So they're asking for the rezone to the LI to allow them to do that. Premier Sports was in there with a conditional use permit.
So is this gonna continue in conditional use?
No,
Revert back?
yeah, the conditional use was for the sports.
Right.
The indoor commercial entertainment aspect. This would go to LI, which would give them the ability to use it for manufacturing and light industrial.
So then after this, then would all the approvals just stay with staff, right? Or would it have to
It's an
continue?
existing building, so it would just go through, most likely it would be interior, so
Okay.
it would be just through the state, and then Scott and Roman.
Okay,
More in keeping with the rest of the zoning in that area, correct?
It's compatible, yes.
Is there any question for staff by the plan commission? Okay, is there a public comment period? Anyone wishes to speak in favor or in opposition? Anyone on social media, Michael?
No, but Mr. Bleak is online if you have questions for
I
him.
was gonna say, did he wanna add anything or no?
Oh, we're just, we were purchasing a property for investment purposes. Mr. Greening is shutting down his business and the property is a good property. I've spent a fair amount of time in Weston over the years. I'm fairly local. And when that building came up for sale, we just knew that it wasn't going to produce another type of business, you know, with the sports academy there. So we just wanted the flexibility to get a tenant in there that may need something other than, you know, the BP designation. It would just allow us a little bit more flexibility to lease it to a tenant.
Thank you. Is there any other public comments, either for or in opposition? Either comments for or in opposition? Michael? No one else, okay. Close the public hearing. Recommendation from staff.
Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Discussion and action by the plan commission, and before we take the motion, I'm gonna have to read through the determination again. Did you note that Mr. Garrett came back to the table? Thank you. 1, is the proposed rezone consistent with the comprehensive plan as it is required by the Wisconsin statute?
Yes.
Yes. 2, does the zoning further the purpose and intent of this chapter?
Yes.
Yes. 3, does the rezoning address any of the following that are not properly addressed on the current official zoning map? Would you like me to read through all these, or would you like to pick one? Number three? Number 3. 4, does the proposed zoning district maintain the desired consistency of land use intensities, and land use impacts as related to the environs of the subject property?
Yes.
Okay, now the chair will entertain a motion.
I just have one quick question.
Sure.
When you guys said it went to question number 3, did you say number 3 and number 4? No.
No, just number 3.
Under 3, number 3.
Okay, why did I think I heard 4? All
Then they
right.
went to 4.
The next question is still. Okay. Discussion and action by the plan commission.
Move for approval.
Moved by Minell,
I'll second it.
second by Maloney. On the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried. Thank you. Okay, item 9. Project number 2022-0021. Pardon me if I get your name wrong. Is it Yao Yang?
That's correct, sir.
The Gospel TLC PO Box 25, Wausau, Wisconsin, 54402, requesting a conditional use permit to allow for a community living arrangement 16 plus within the B2 Highway Business Zoning District per section 94.4.04 sub 10 on the property known as 3404 Cross Point Boulevard. PIN number 192, 2802, 291, 0028, Planning Commission. I'll open the public hearing. Presentation by staff.
I'm actually gonna have them probably explain what they're doing to you.
Sure, step forward, name and address for the record, please, and
My name is Yao Yang. Address is 10620 North 60th Avenue, Merrill, Wisconsin, 54402. So I am the pastor of the Cross Church. We're a multi-ethnic, non-denominational church located in Schofield, Wisconsin. And I work a lot with a really marginalized population, which is the homeless, the addicted, people that are coming out of incarceration, people that need jobs, the Joseph Project. And it came to my understanding a few years ago that a lot of these individuals, they need some long-term help. And we really don't have that available in Marathon County. And so then in 2019, we got our 501c3 to be a nonprofit religious entity. And so the goal of the Gospel TLC is to be a Christ-centered long-term. And so we're looking at providing residential housing for individuals for 3 to 18 months. This is going to be completely free for individuals that are addicted and broken. We all know the drug epidemic, the homelessness issue in our community, problems with employment. And so then it's going to be at this facility where we can provide some long-term care to be able to help these individuals get back on their feet. So that's a synopsis of the Gospel TLC.
are there any questions for Mr. Yang? Who's this young man standing next to you?
I'm Wally Binder. My address is 232172 North 72nd Avenue, Wausau. I'm on the board with Pastor Yao and the Gospel TLC.
Okay. Any questions for either of these two gentlemen?
So you said, it's free. So is there a standard amount of time, or is it the resident that decides when they come and when they leave?
Okay, all right, so I heard a few questions in there. So the first part is the free part, right? So I think we have to be really cognizant of the fact that we want to be able to help this population, not enable this population. And so if they have a means of income, we're looking at possibly 33% of their income that they would pay a program fee in order to be at our facility, because I don't want somebody to just be like, well, I'm just gonna free load off of Pastor Yao for 18 months. That's not what we wanna do. As far as.
So in your very first part of your presentation, I heard the word free.
That's for.
How did you, maybe I misunderstood when you used the word free, so what was that for?
Yeah, so I work with a lot of individuals that's coming out of prison.
Okay.
This is a population that they just don't have any income whatsoever. I work with individuals that are currently homeless, so they don't have a means of income. But, there are some people in this community that they might not be homeless, they might not be coming out of incarceration. They have an addiction problem and they want some help and they want some long-term help. But they also have financial means to be able to, maybe they might have a job. And so if you do have a job, we're going to ask that you also contribute to the program fees.
I got it now.
But as far as the question of, how long are they gonna be staying? So for 13 years, I also worked, for DC Upper School District. And, I actually taught Gary's daughter, Michaela. I don't know if you remember me, Gary. Yeah, so, but anyways, in education, we all know that, everybody learns differently. And so what we want to be able to do is create different targeted goals, but, I'll pick on Steve. We want these individuals to be able to get jobs before they leave. But Steve's ability to be able to be successful at a job might be a little bit more difficult than Gary's ability to be able to get a job. So we're gonna have targeted goals for them to be able to meet so that in 12 to 18 months, that they can graduate from our program. But, as a former educator, I'm just really cognizant to the fact that everybody has different learning capabilities, but that is our targeted timeframe.
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. White?
Mr. White. Lauren. So, this is strictly voluntary.
Correct.
Clients will be voluntary, and the length of time they want to stay there is predicated on whether they want to stay there. You can't keep them there.
We will not force anybody to be in our program that doesn't want to be there, because if I'm forcing them to change, that's never going to work. We know that when you try to force change upon somebody, that doesn't work. And so this is a voluntary program that they have to, that they want to be in.
Follow-up question.
Yes,
Would you take referrals from healthcare professionals, community care providers, such like the homeless shelter or the free clinic, those kind of places?
yeah, so that's a really good question. So I recently had the opportunity to meet with the executive director of Pride TLC. So they're actually gonna be our neighbors. And so her name is Sally. And so then in talking with Sally, it actually turns out that she also gets some referrals, but they just don't have the capacity to help individuals that have AODA issues. And so that's a segment of the population where, if we can get some referrals, not only that, but I've been in talks with Sheriff Scott Parks. And so that's also another agency that would partner with us as they meet individuals who could use a long-term facility.
Mr. Moper, you had a question?
In here, they had that staff have reached out to the Department of Health Services regarding licensing required for this land use. But as of the writing of this packet, have not heard back. Is that?
Still have not heard back.
Can you shed any light on what licensure might be required?
Yeah, so because we are a nonprofit 501c3 entity, we are just a religious entity. So we kind of fall under the designation of a church entity. And so the government can't regulate what's gonna happen in religious activities. And so we're not a commercial business, but our articles of incorporation say that we are a religious entity. And so we don't officially have any licensed counselors. I can't call my program to be an addiction recovery center, because when I put addiction and things like that, it's regulated through the state. And that's the reason why our paperwork, we are a heart transformational center, and that's not regulated through the state.
So my only thought is a wolf in sheep's clothing is still a wolf.
We have it listed as number 4
Condition.
in the conditional use permit, just in case they do require it, that we find out, then they would have to get any licensing. Says applicant shall obtain licensing from Marathon County in the state of Wisconsin if applicable.
So we partner with an organization just like this over in Eau Claire. It's called Hope Gospel Mission. And they.
Hope Gospel?
Gospel Mission.
Okay.
And so then the state cannot regulate what religious entities are able to do. I'm really providing religious services for our residents.
Okay.
Mr. Karen?
Oh, you have a question?
Yeah, so, you're not taking government money. I'm just curious how you're going to, continue to operate with some sort of budget if you're gonna have, is your staff voluntary or are they employees?
Yeah, so Some of our staff will be paid, some of them will also be voluntary. And so we have different donations coming in from different individuals, different businesses and churches. And so we also have yearly fundraisers, and from a financial standpoint, we've been looking very healthy.
Mr. Karen. Is this similar to what Heath Tappy has?
So I think we work with the same population, but the way that we're going to transform the hearts of these individual residents, it's gonna look a little bit different.
Well, I'm not privy to what Heath Taffy has.
Bridge Street?
Oh, okay.
Bridge Street, Michigan?
Yep, got it. Okay.
Are you familiar with that? I wish I should have the name of it. I neglected to look it up, but there's a facility in Stevens Point that is I believe, a CBRF that's very similar to this, that does drug treatment.
Yeah, so I guess my caution is I don't want to use the word CBRF because that's regulated through the state of Wisconsin. So that's going to require us to get inspections, do reports and things like that. And like, so the Eau Claire program, they're not a CBRF. We would fall under the designation of just a religious entity.
So
one thing I'd like to say in regards to that, if we were a CBRF and we were licensed by a CBRF, we could take insurance money, we could get funds from the county, we could do all kinds of things. We are not doing any of that. One of the things, like I say, Eau Claire, it's a good place to go look to see about the quality of what they do. They just built a $3.5 million facility, but they've been in business over there for over 20 years and have a really excellent record of people who, if they get through the program, there's a screening process as you go through the program, but if you get through the program, like in their program, they have over a 70% non-recidivant rate, which is very, very high. If you look at the national average, it's nowhere near that, okay? And what we're trying to do, and as being a businessman myself and investing in this, and I have other members on the board that are business people also, because I don't know if any business today doesn't run into this problem where they have potentially good workers that have addiction problems and cannot keep it together. In the years that I've been with the Godorsey Company, we've probably had 3 of our employees that had an addiction problem that led to suicide, which leaves a really dark spot in your life. You know, especially if you know and care about the individual.
go ahead. Pastor, how do you quantify, who is the person that says, you're okay? Or is that process ongoing if you get them into a workforce? Yeah, I mean, so if there's no regulations, nobody's licensed.
Yeah.
And it's faith-based.
Correct.
Is each individual faith-based volunteer or paid staff member different? Or are they all trying to help the same exact way? I guess I don't feel like there's any structure.
Yeah, well,
I don't even know if I can ask that question, but
I can show you all my documents as far as targeted goals and stuff like that.
Yep.
And so again, I'm going back to my education. If somebody comes into 6th grade without any knowledge of ancient civilizations, as a teacher, I have my standards that, in first quarter, here's all the objectives that they need to be able to meet. So I can show you all of my documents as far as here are the targeted goals that in 3 months' time, as far as number 1, their faith, number 2, their job capabilities, number 3, job skills, and then number 4, just kind of their heart transformation. I've been able to do a matrix of different targeted goals that within each quarter, this is where I want them to be advancing. I could show you all those documents. I'm not sure if you really want to see them tonight.
Yeah. All right. Is this living, not 8 hours a day? So when they're there, they're living there.
Yes.
They will be there 24/7. We will have our staff also be there 24/7.
Okay. How many residents can populate this building? Is it, and then when you said you're gonna have a neighbor, Pride LT,
LLC.
is that part of that building? or no?
No, they're
That's the
just.
big living,
they're just,
senior living facility right next door.
Okay, got it. Or-
Yeah, so that was the question of where we're gonna get the referrals. Well, ITLC, they actually don't have enough space,
Okay,
and they have individuals that have AOD issues. Maybe that's where some of the referrals can come from as well too.
Mr. Garrett?
Have you guys done this outside of a facility, smaller facility that has success? I mean, I've seen and heard of other facilities that most of the people that are volunteering are the people that have made it through it
Correct.
and wanna give back.
give back, yeah.
Yeah,
And wanna give back, and they feel so thankful for where they're at right now, that they give back in helping others. That's where their heart is at. But have you had that experience?
yeah, so this is my two-part answer to that. You know, the first answer is, I just truly believe that in Marathon County, we haven't really been able to develop a really robust, long-term facility for that. And so, you know, I guess I can be honest, like, I've never done that before, to work at a long-term care facility. But where in Marathon County do we really have anything like that? And then the second answer to that is, as a pastor that's been working with this really marginalized population, and also as the director of the Joseph Project, that we've been helping people in the community get jobs. I've had 5 years of experience of working with this down and out population.
What I was referencing was, sometimes we'll take somebody under our wing, right?
Yeah.
Have you had that experience? Have you?
We have,
Okay,
So-
and that's where I was going with it. So
Through
you've mentored some people and helped them already.
yeah, through the church route.
Yes,
So
and that's where I was going with it.
Yep, through the church route, but those are two separate ministries. But working in the church realm, after all these years, in working with this population, it's led me to believe that these individuals need something more. And that was the reason why we started that.
Are you able to do this at your facility on Grand Avenue now? No. Are you still on Grand Avenue, right?
Yep, we're still on Grand Avenue.
So that'll be a separate entity, and then this will be a kind of a different mission.
Yeah, the reason why we like 3404 Cross Point is because it used to be pretty much used for that reason as a commercial entity. And so that building and the property is already perfect for what we're wanting to use it for, so.
In other words, it's in move-in condition.
It is, yeah. So we feel like this is gonna give it, to give us a really good start, for us to be able to start the program. And I'm just blessed that we get to be able to start that in the Everest district here, so.
Do you need any type of licensed physician, nurse, et cetera, to hold and dispense medication? And I don't know the answer to that from a license standpoint either, but I would definitely want to know.
I just know that for the residents that are coming into our program, they're already going to the hospitals and getting their meds. All that we're doing is taking their meds, and if the instructions are to give 3 pills a day.
I understand what you're doing, that's why I'm questioning it.
Yep,
So you're safekeeping wow.
I mean, it's within your that,
So if you're safe, so in other words, you're taking whatever medication these individuals may be on.
Yeah.
And then somebody, a volunteer or staff, is then gonna dispense.
yep, so that the meds are not going to be abused, and so then.
Or left in their living spaces.
Correct, so we're gonna be given the doctors, we'll just be doing what the doctor's orders will be.
I just have to say, I want to be on record saying I have a concern and I think we should investigate whether or not
I
that's
agree.
legal.
Yeah.
Because in here specifically, it said, I read, that was one of the things I read and was concerned about is that, you know, if you're dispensing some type of drug, any type of drug, is that legal? You know,
It sounds simple enough and it sounds common sense enough. Well, we're talking narcotics. We're talking a wide range of stuff, and, you know, it could be an issue.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
I don't
But
either.
if that's gonna happen, that.
Well, first of all, gentlemen,
And I'll just say, I'm very much in favor of drug treatment facilities.
absolutely.
I'm very familiar with them, unfortunately. And if you're looking for referrals, Catholic Charities will give you as many as you want, would be my guess.
there's still, gentlemen, there's still a screening process on our end that we can't take everybody.
Right.
If you're asking somebody who's coming in and they're on a cocaine alternative drug and stuff like that, they probably will not be at this point brought into our facility because we have limited. What we're talking about, if somebody's got normal medication, but they're just fumbling with their life, this is not something that we're dispensing to anybody. What we're doing is saying that, okay, your medication is at 3 o'clock, you come there at 3 o'clock, you get your medication, you put it back in this, and it's locked up. That's basically it. If you're saying that I'm a nurse that's saying, okay, I'm prescribing something, no, nothing like that.
Well, it's not prescribing, it's dispensing.
So, well,
There's a difference. Yeah.
they come to this unlocked spot to pick it up.
Right.
You don't have somebody handing it to them.
No, I think that what we will be doing is following the guidelines of what we have at Hope over in Eau Claire. And
Can you elaborate on what those are? That was gonna be my next question, I guess.
And again, I would have to have Chris Hovland, maybe give you a better answer on that, but
Who is this?
Chris Hovland is the executive director.
Chris, what?
Yeah, so Chris Henlon, he is the program director for the Hope Gospel Mission,
Can you spell his last name?
Hedlund. And he would be more than willing to answer a lot of your questions too. And so as we're continually building the program, he's our consultant.
Okay.
And so I'm working alongside with him. And so everything that they're really doing over there, from a legal aspect, those are things that we want to be able to do here. And obviously, they're a flourishing ministry in Eau Claire.
I thought I kind of asked the question, but how many individuals could max in this building?
Max would be 16.
How many?
16.
Oh, six, that's it?
Per room.
16, okay. So then,
It's not a very big building.
no, I drove by it actually a couple times. I thought it was, could house more than that. But you've got common areas, you've got common bathrooms,
Right.
common kitchen, some storage, I'm sure. Okay. Would there be any transportation required? Not mass?
What do you mean by that? Mr.
Well, we don't have a bus service out here.
Yeah. So you really want to know the fine print answer to that?
Well, because it's often talked about on the neighboring communities.
Yeah.
That it'd be so nice to have bus service, but every time we've tried to do it, it actually, we pay for it as a community, but the entire community, probably 95% doesn't get to use it.
Yeah.
It's only going to a couple spots and then it heads back into town. Or into Wausau.
So we feel that our program, obviously, we know that, Wausau's truly the urban area for
Yes.
this, right?
Yep.
We're in Weston, we're not too far, and so
No.
they really want to be able to, if people want that transformation, they're gonna figure out how to get to our facility that's gonna be 5 miles away from
Okay.
Wausau.
Okay, well, and being only 16, if we've got some companies involved here, certainly we wouldn't want to restrict anyone from taking a job or, starting something, fresh with their life.
Yeah, so again, through my experience with the Joseph Project, we work with different businesses, Crystal Finishing, Gordon Aluminum. A lot of these employers, they need employees.
Mhm.
And so here we have an opportunity for 18 months to be able to give our residents the job skills that they need so that they're going to be employable. So I truly believe that this is only gonna be a win-win for our entire community.
How many, does, Chris Headland, how many did they have in their facility? Approximately.
They have two different separate facilities. They have one for males and one for females. And I want you guys to know that this will,
Okay.
for now, be an all-male facility only.
Wait, this is gonna be all male?
That's correct.
Okay, did not know that.
Yeah, so co-ed populations in addiction and trying to recover, that's a recipe for disaster.
Okay.
And so in his facility in Eau Claire, I think they can do upwards to about 30 males.
I only because I've seen so much change in my life how can you determine male and not female? I'm sorry, if that's a smart.
That's very common in drug treatment.
It is, okay.
Yeah, like
I mean, I'm not trying to be a smart butt,
Yeah,
but I mean,
was the
why
one
wouldn't
case.
16 women would rather, why wouldn't that facility be available to women, but why to male?
Yeah, so I feel this is something new to central Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I want to do this right. And so when I go to the Marathon County Jail, 90% of the inmates are there are male.
Well, I was gonna dovetail in there with Roy that I would believe there'd be more male too.
Yeah, so it just
That's-
makes sense.
Okay.
But our goal, my big goal, is that we want to start off with males, do that well,
Okay,
and then eventually expand the program to women. And then,
But in a separate, not in the same facility.
correct, in a separate facility. And then be able to expand that to the younger population. And as a veteran, I just have a big soft spot for the homeless veterans in our community.
Mhm.
So it actually turns out that tomorrow I'll be talking to the American Legion about their support of the Gospel TLC, because they just know that we have homeless veterans in our community. So we're gonna eventually serve a myriad of population that are either addicted or they're just broken in their different ways.
who is gonna be the executive director of this facility?
You're looking at them.
You will, okay, I figured as much, so you would, that would be your primary function there and not the church on Grand?
Yeah, so when I started my church, Mark,
Mhm.
it was homeless people,
Mhm.
people that were coming out of incarceration, people that needed jobs. When I started the church, I realized that I could never be a traditional pastor to get a salary.
Mhm.
So I needed to be bivocational. And that's the reason why for 13 years, my full-time Monday through Friday job was to work for the DC Everett School District. And then on the weekends, I was the pastor of the church.
Okay,
And so I've been bivocational for a very long time now. And I don't get a salary for the church work that I do.
and you are or are not with DC Everest anymore?
So last year in April, we had our inaugural fundraiser at Mount Olive Lutheran Church.
Mhm.
And it was just a really, really great evening of generosity. After that fundraiser, the board said, yeah, we believe that we have enough funding so that you can pursue the Gospel TLC full time.
You and I have had a lot of conversations, a year and a half ago with the USDA box program.
That's correct.
And I was just very intrigued with everything you were doing. And then on the Joseph project you brought up, and I think where's the affiliation there? Is there some affiliation with Milwaukee? Some pastors that I was working with down there?
Yeah, so the Joseph Project started down in Milwaukee. So there was a black pastor. And in 2015, Pastor Smith,
Yep, okay.
he met with Senator Ron Johnson's office.
Yep.
And it was at a town hall meeting, and Pastor Smith says, my church is located in inner city Milwaukee. I have individuals that want jobs, but because it's in inner city Milwaukee, there's just not enough availability of good paying jobs. Several weeks later, Senator Johnson's staff members, they went to the outskirts of Milwaukee, meeting with business leaders, and these business leaders said, we have all these job openings, but we don't have enough individuals to fill these vacancies. And that's where the Joseph Project started, is you have populations that need jobs, and then you have places where they can't fill that. The barrier to these vacancies is transportation. And so then the project was brought up in 2017 to Central Wisconsin. And so I've been directing that since 2019.
Well, my conversations with Pastor Smith, he finally just started asking me, I just don't know where you are. Because he wanted me to, stop over, and I said, well, I'm way up here in Wausau, and
Yeah.
when I get down there, I'll certainly visit you. But that's when I said I'm in the Wausau area is when he mentioned you, and that's how we connected.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're still affiliated with Pastor Smith? Some degree or no?
Yeah, so unfortunately, Pastor Smith passed away from COVID last year.
All right, he was very unhealthy when I was talking to him. I know he was going and getting some health stuff quite a bit. He wasn't that mobile, so. All right, I know, I'm probably talking too much here, but.
Mr. Cronin.
Okay.
Can you elaborate on your success rate with the Joseph Project?
Yeah, so 75% to 100% of our students, depending on the class, but at a minimum, 75% of our students will get hired on. And in some classes, 100% of our students will get hired on.
How long does that program last?
So the program is so we have it 4 times a year, and it's week-long in the evenings. So they come to our church from 4 until 8, and we give them classes on job skills, life skills, Christianity. And so we're able to really just introduce them to a new way of thinking because, they've been incarcerated or whatever. And so then 75% or 100% of our students will get a job. The reason why I started the Gospel TLC is this. I don't publicize this a lot, but for the population that I work with, I'm really happy that in the beginning, we know that 75% to 100% of our students will get a job. And as the director of the Joseph Project, I can track their job retention afterwards. And what we're able to find out is that after 3 months, we go from 75% retention down to 25%. And so I'm having conversations with our students. You are doing so good. What happened? And the number one reason is because of addiction. So I came to realize that yes, the Joseph Project does work for 25% of my population. But we as a community need to do something more for that 75%. They need long-term care. We just don't have anything like that. And that's the reason why I started the Gospel TLC.
So when you're saying long-term, you're defining that as 18 months.
Yeah, so we're looking at, I might have somebody that might just started their addiction, right?
Right.
Where, they're maybe 20 and they've only dabbled that in a year for like maybe a year or whatever. So our time frame is anywhere between 3 to 18 months because for everybody, it's going to look a little bit different, but our targeted goal is going to be 12 to 18.
And is 18 just like a point where there has to be an end, or how is that determined?
Yeah, so research tells us that for a lot of these individuals that are just kind of detoxing from the drugs and the alcohol, at a minimum, it takes 6 months for a person to physically, mentally, spiritually come to. It's just 6 months. Well, that's just 6 months. I haven't really been able to work with the different life skills. And so then the Eau Claire program, they're 12 to 18 months, and they've been able to see success with that.
Any other comments? Questions?
I can say just from a few years back, I worked in EMS for a number of years, and it's not always easily seen on the surface, but this community has a huge problem with drugs and addiction.
Just working close with the ENPD. This community has no clue. This whole surrounding area has no clue. We worry about speeders. They're not even thinking about speeders. They're not thinking about gas drive-offs. Their whole day is stuff happening in homes. And, I work with 2 gentlemen. One served an awful lot of time, and he probably came back every other week for a job I'm embarrassed to tell you, for about a year. But his determination was incredible, and he's still up working for us, probably 14 years. And I've had several conversations with him, about how proud he must be that he quit, he's not addicted anymore to the stuff he was in. He says, oh no, I'm still addicted. I just don't use it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're an alcoholic, you're an alcoholic forever.
Yes.
You just aren't drinking. And he thinks about it every single day. And he's done extremely well, adopted a few kids, and doing really well.
Yeah, I can really see that this facility would be something that would be a bright spot in our community because just the financial and economic toll of addiction and homelessness, whether it's going to the ER, law enforcement having to deal with these individuals and things like that. If we can work to prevent homelessness, addiction, overdoses, we didn't even touch on that. I just truly believe that this would be an economic savings for Weston, for Marathon County. So it's a good financial investment that's for our county.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, Mr. Muppin?
Do you use a 12-step approach?
So the Eau Claire program, they have different programmings that they use. So there's the 12-step. There's other different programs out there as well too.
I mean, so the Eau Claire with this, Chris Hedlund,
Yes,
he just, I mean, over this 20-year course,
yeah,
they've just developed how they are successful.
correct.
So
Yeah,
each of these is kind of independent
they
in
are.
their success.
They are, but you know, I feel like Eau Claire's doing a really great job, but they're 20 years ahead of us.
Right.
So instead of me trying to recreate the wheel, why don't I just kind of learn from somebody that's been doing it well and be able to replicate that here in central Wisconsin?
And they dispense also?
That's correct. And I don't believe they have a full-time nurse that's working there.
I think probably, and maybe I'm speaking for Brian, but I think our biggest concern is that something doesn't fall back on us for approval. Roy, is that where you're going with this as far as licensing and legalities? And I think that's the hardest part for us. We just want to make sure we're making the right decisions here as well. We commend you for what you're doing. It's amazing.
Well, Mr. Garrett, in one of the conditions that are in this application, it talks about the applicant shall obtain licensing from Marathon County and state of Wisconsin, if applicable. So that's kind of like a
way for us to get, I was just saying, some of the concerns we had, don't take that offensively. We're just trying to make sure we're making the right decision. Well,
Yep, I understand that you guys also have to, you know, cover yourself, but I truly believe that in my conversations with Mr. Hedlund and Eau Claire, that because we are a religious entity, we don't have those regulations from the state of Wisconsin.
Are people gonna be coming and going, or once they're there, do they stay there? Like, do they leave and go to work, or?
Yeah, so they're gonna be there 24/7. In the beginning, we have to really be able to monitor where they go. But, you know, after 3 months, what I need to do is gradually release them a little bit, because the reality is in 18 months, they're gonna be completely independent, right? And so it's going to be a gradual release where, you know, maybe in 6 months' time, now we're taking them to the job. So that maybe in 9 months, they can get themselves to the job. And so it has to be a gradual release of them getting their independence back. But in the beginning, we have to be really strict with how they're able to come and go from our facility.
And that person would be who? Who would that person be to restrict or to release? And then also, who's the person, you're the executive director?
Yeah.
That is gonna do the screening to accept?
Correct. So initially, it would be me that's doing a majority of the work 9 to 5. But our hope is that as we continue to do more fundraisers and as I continue to talk to more groups like the American Legion, that we'll be able to have more funding so that I will be able to hire on more folks. But, you know, I don't see us filling 16 beds overnight. That's just not realistic and good for our program. So we need to get our feet wet and start slow and go from there.
Okay, Valerie, refresh my memory, we're still in the public comment period, is that correct?
We're in the presentation.
Oh, we're in the presentation. Okay,
Right. No, we're not in public comment yet.
okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Thank you.
No, thank you.
Now we have the public comment period. Is there anyone in the audience and or on social media who wishes to make a comment in favor or in opposition? Step forward, name and address for the record, please.
I'm Kathy Jamison, 9611 Woodland Drive in Weston. I am the property director for Birchwood Highlands, which is directly across the street from the property where this is proposed. I don't have any, I have compassion for the folks that are in this position, and I personally am a Christian, and so I appreciate what what they are doing. I also have the responsibility to make sure that folks that are in our community are safe. We have 214 apartments for 55 plus, and a lot of them, that means anywhere from 55 to over 95.
How many apartments? How many, 200?
214 apartments.
Okay.
It's
55 plus, okay.
55 plus. Would consider that to be a vulnerable population. Prior to this, I was the executive director of the building just on the other side of that building, which is Primrose Retirement Community, the memory care, and an extremely vulnerable population. And the population to the east, Pride, is CBRF, and again, vulnerable. They're nursing home and CBRF. So all the way around this building, it's vulnerable population. So some of the questions that were going through my mind when we were talking about some of the things, the medications is an excellent question. That's got to be controlled. I know when I was with the memory care, we had to have, I couldn't even hand out, as the executive director, I couldn't hand somebody an aspirin. That was off limits. And so, I would be very interested to know how the medications, especially when you get into the classes of narcotics and that kind of thing, would be handled. Other questions I would have would be, what is the safety, people coming and going. We talked about probably a lot of these people don't have income, they don't have cars, they don't have transportation. So they're going to be on foot. And if you're on foot coming out of that building, you're walking right by one of these other vulnerable populations. Security, we're talking about people not being able to leave. Okay, if they're not able to leave, number one, how do you keep them in there? There's always the ability to egress. You can't lock those doors. So if they push on that door for 15 seconds, be able to open, because people have to be able to get out in case of fire. So what happens then in the night when one of them drug addicted person has to get out? They're going out one way or another. So they go out that side door. What kind of staff do you have there? Is there one staff? Is there more than one staff? Because if you have to chase the one out the door, who's there to provide security for the rest of the people? These are things that we dealt with the memory care, because people are trying to get out with memory care. So you've got to have, we always had to have more than one staff member on, all night. So I wonder about the 24-hour staffing and how you keep that staffing. Is it just one person? Do you have two people? It just concerns me that there's vulnerable population completely around this, and maybe my concerns are ill-founded, but when we start talking about drug addictions, there's a lot of bad stuff that happens when people are addicted to drugs and alcohol. So those are my concerns. I don't know if there's.
Are there any questions?
Is this public comment or?
Yes, this is public comment. You can ask them questions if you wish.
I've got the same concerns. So I mean, to be able to make a decision, I don't think I can make a decision tonight. I think, I've read about this a little bit. I know, Pastor, but, I've got some questions. I definitely want to talk to this group in Eau Claire myself, and, maybe others do too. And so, yeah, I think some of the questions we had, and along with yours, I think those are relevant questions. It all has to work together. Yeah.
I would just comment and say, I've worked with Catholic Charities, which is in Wausau, for north of 10 years. And I started the year after they started. Now, in thinking it through, as I was thinking here, it said they provide up to 30 beds per night shelter for homeless people. And now that I was thinking about it, they also take medication for anybody on the way in when they're admitted every night and dispense. And now I don't think they have a licensed.
Bunch of their staff are nurses.
But, okay, but I was just gonna say, now they have a ton of volunteers. Now, maybe they, I don't know how they, but I guess I would say I could look to Wausau and find out a lot of these answers potentially based on how they dealt with Catholic Charities or deal with them. Because this is very somewhat of a, they don't do it long-term, they just do it by night to night. But the idea of being religious-based and dealing with alcohol and drug addicted people, oh yeah. And in regards to your, I'll just say this, the second year they started was the first year I worked with them. And back then, they let people in that were intoxicated, and there were some not good situations, because I got in the middle of some of them. Yeah, it can get, yeah. And so their policy changed. They don't allow people to enter now if they are
Obviously
intoxicated, and they put that in place quite a number of years ago because of that exact situation. You know, I mean, yeah, because I can tell you, I personally had to get involved in some of those nights. Trying to stop people from doing, yeah.
Okay. Is there any other public comment? Online, Michael?
Okay.
No one online.
Anyone wishing to speak in favor or in opposition?
Are we gonna still discuss or not?
Yes, that's coming up. So,
Okay.
anyone else wishing to speak in opposition or in favor? Hearing and seeing no other, I'm gonna close the public hearing. Recommendation from staff?
We put together a draft conditional use permit that you could use. You also have the ability per the zoning ordinance to, you don't have to make a decision tonight. You have 60 days, so you can come up with questions that you want answered by the applicant, the staff to work on. You have that ability to.
So the handout that you provided, the printed one, on the last page, it talks, under one, it talks about the conditional use permits. 6 points, is this the one you were talking about, the conditions?
Yeah, there's 6 conditions that we put in there, in the draft.
Okay, thank you. Item F, discussion and action by plan commission.
Discussion?
Right, discussion and or action.
Okay. I just have a quick question. Chris Hedlund
Yeah,
is the executive director?
he is the program director.
Oh, okay. So the executive director is Sandy Polson, correct?
She's
Yep.
the executive director.
Right.
Chris
Okay.
runs the program.
Yeah, he's titled Program and Education Director. Okay. Okay.
I've got another question. Have you had any conversations with the police chief here in the village, Clay, in regards to this?
I haven't yet, because I thought we were going to be located maybe a little bit more in the Wausau area. I've been working a little bit more with Wausau PD and with the sheriff's department. But I haven't, if this does go through, we need to be able to have a really robust partnership with Everest Metro.
I would agree.
You definitely will, I can tell you from working with Catholic Charities.
Yeah, there are a lot.
Yes.
And the EMPD Everest Metro has a very good working relationship with Parks and with Wausau. So they all get along extremely, in fact, all the agencies around here share and get along extremely well.
Yeah, I mean, the sheriff's department and the Wausau Police Department have reached out to me. Yeah, when is this gonna happen? Because last year, I think there was a total of like 40, I don't know, 20 to 40 overdoses just in Wausau alone, you know, so like, I mean, this is an urgent need in our community.
So I just want to remind the plan commission that a motion to defer or postpone is also appropriate if you have sufficient number of questions that haven't been answered at this hearing.
Well, that's where I am right now.
I'll be, that's where I am. I just want to say, I absolutely agree with the need. If we don't have it around here, I know that from personal experience, and I very much would welcome it. But at this point tonight, with this format, yes, I'm not comfortable moving forward. Because I do still have questions about the drug dispensing and some of the other policies. And it's not, again, not that I'm against it at all, but I just don't feel comfortable without that information.
I mean, absolutely, I'm not in a NIMBY situation where not in my backyard, absolutely not. I would really enjoy, I mean, and be proud and have passion that Everest or this area would have. And you kind of singled out Weston. I mean, the goal for this mission would be the entire area, everyone, not Weston, or, I mean, it's not a thing for Weston, but it's just to help everyone. It'd be huge, so. I don't wanna diminish the sense of urgency, or, you know, the passion that you have. I know you have that. But I feel like I just have to ask more questions of others, you know, some people that you brought up. And just do, you know, some of the area stuff, and so I'm sure you were looking for it tonight, but I'm just not prepared to vote yes tonight. I'm also I'm not gonna say no either. I just think I have some questions.
So, you know, you have a constraint as far as the offer to purchase on this property or anything that is, you necessarily need to get to?
So right now, the only thing that's really holding us back from really launching this is as far as the contingency, it was for us to be able to have the conditional use permit so that we can do this. There's no point of us buying this building if we do not have the right permit to be able to execute that. So really, we are waiting for this to pass. That's it.
So it's a private issue, a personal issue. I mean, are you looking to purchase or to lease?
So right now, we are going through seller finance.
Okay.
And again, the contingency is for this to get the right permit. So that's all we're waiting for at this point.
Okay.
So everything on our end is good to go, but we're just waiting for Village of Weston.
Okay. Thank you.
So then if some of the members have some particular issues, I think they should verbalize them to Yao so we can actually work on them.
Now, could you share your telephone number?
Yep, it's 715.
Yep.
572.
Yep.
4549.
4549.
And I think, I don't know what you guys are thinking, but we would be more than willing to have Chris come from Eau Claire to sit down with you all, and then you guys can do your roundtable questions.
I think it might be helpful to have Chief Schultz here for the next discussion as well, just my 2 cents.
I was gonna make the same recommendation. I would like his input in regards to, because the safety aspect is a real aspect.
One of the things you'll find in talking with Christo is that when you talk, and the police chief here can talk to the police chief over there. They are very respected in that community because they do not have a ton of police calls. Catholic charities will have 5 times more than this one. Trust me on that. It's a different animal because of how it's operated.
And I would also like to find out just from staff to look into the drug dispensing question.
Well, I think around that is because it's faith-based. There's no restrictions, there's no, what'd you call it, a C?
CRS.
Yeah, so by being that way, then it has, you know, some.
I'm not
structure.
sure about that though.
But by being faith-based, there is none, and that's, yeah, okay. Okay,
Pastor, if we delay this to the next meeting to make a decision, is that gonna throw a ball of wax into anything with your offer on this property, or?
I mean, he's willing to hold on. There's a date that we're shooting for that hopefully all of this is gonna pass by.
okay.
Okay.
But if this gets postponed until the next one, I don't think that shouldn't really throw a wrench in our schedule.
Okay, do you mind me asking what that date is?
I think we're shooting for April
Okay,
at the latest,
Okay.
latest.
Okay.
We wanted to build in that buffer because this is really new to all of us, right? So really, my goal in tonight is, I think we as a community, we need to have that robust conversation. I want all of you to feel confident to say, this is something that I supported, so your questions are really good, but I believe that Chris will do a fantastic job of kind of just easing some of the worries that we might have.
Do we wanna put together a list of what we'd like?
I mean, you know what I want? We definitely have to, I have to postpone it. I mean, I have to at 30 days.
Sure.
And then, I'm just gonna, I don't know what staff's gonna do. I don't know what all of you are gonna do, if we're gonna do it collectively. I'm over in the cities quite often. I will definitely be stopping in Eau Claire. So I wanna meet that team over there. They have a pretty impressive website.
Yeah.
They have a pretty extensive board of directors.
Mhm.
And they have a team, you know, from executive there, I mean, they must have 6 or 7, you know, people that they have identified as part of their structure, so. And they have 18 beds over there, you said?
I think there's at least 30 beds.
Oh, 30, okay.
Just on the men's side, they also have a women's.
Oh, yeah, that's right, okay.
Jen, I have a question. Do we have to renotice this as another separate hearing if we postpone it for?
They would just go underneath.
Thank you.
I'm gonna ask one, can I ask one other question of you? Relapse in addiction is almost a guarantee.
That's correct.
And if and when that occurs with one of your residents, what is the approach?
We are a safe and sober living facility. We will not permit alcohol, even as simple as mouthwash, to be in our facility. Obviously, no drugs. We have to hold truth to it being a safe and sober living environment. If somebody does not want to abide by those rules, they do not have to be there, so they will not be allowed to stay at our facility.
So if someone arrives and they're intoxicated, obviously intoxicated, then what is the response?
So they will have to leave our facility. We are not a detox center. So if you come high or drunk, we will not accept you. We are not a detox center that's going to help them to detox. We will take them when they're sober. We're gonna hope and pray that because our facility is gonna have security cameras and it's gonna be monitored by at least 2 staff members at any time, that if they're going to leave or come, that we're going to have the right procedures to make sure that contraband does not come into our facility. And I think it does help that for now, we're kind of further removed from downtown Wausau where we just know that some of those vices happen.
Question.
Mr. Cronin, go ahead.
I just said that was a good question.
Okay. You might care to make a motion?
I will move to make a motion to defer to next month, and put it back on the agenda, subject to getting some of these questions answered.
I'll second that.
Should we summarize some of these questions as part of
We
this?
can do that under the question. Motion's been made by Lumper, seconded by Maloney to defer to the next. Under the question, you want some, I don't know if you followed or have some idea of the questions that this committee has, or commission.
I can give you guys my email if you wanna email me your questions and things like that.
Okay.
Because I don't want to guess what some of your questions might be. I would prefer to receive them personally from all of you.
Can you also provide it for the facility in Eau Claire? That contact information?
I would think that you should probably each send your questions to me and then I will pass it.
Right, it's
Okay.
probably the better way to do it.
Yeah, well, collectively, we have no power unless we're, as a commission. So if we do send them to Jen, then we're acting as a commission. If we're all individual, it means nothing. Yeah, that's a good point.
And I can compile them
Yep.
and then get him the information. You may have some things that.
Because I'm sure all of us have a lot of the same questions.
And I think, if we could maybe get it on Chief Schultz's radar for second Monday next month, for him to, I think it would be helpful for him to be here. If he can't, I guess maybe we can get him, we can get him some questions or whatever at a time, but.
Is there a possibility you could have the chief of Eau Claire
Sure.
communicate with Chief Schultz?
Yep, we can do that. And
Just, I think that would be good, just to have the two chiefs communicate with each other.
yeah, and I think just for the sanity of Chris, I think instead of all of you calling
Right,
during your
right, it's gonna come.
available
Yep.
times, I think I can give you Chris's information, but
No, I agree. I agree.
It's right here on the website, but it has to come from collectively from one source. You're right.
yeah, because
It'll
I
drive her
don't
nuts.
want
Yep.
him to get random phone calls like, hey, I'm from Weston and
Yeah.
Steve's calling and then Gary's calling and it's like,
The other thing could we ask is if potentially at the next meeting, could you have them available by a Teams meeting so we wouldn't have to travel all the way over here?
Yeah,
Or you could come in at a.
Or he could phone in too,
that's a good
Call it
point.
on Zoom.
yeah.
You could call it on Zoom. Yeah,
yeah, but I mean, we can do that too, but I think you should be able to get your answers, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's really, even if you guys send me your questions by this week, Chris can reply to them and you guys will get this way before the next meeting as well too, so.
Still on the question? Anything else on the question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried. It'll be deferred until the next meeting. And make sure you get your questions.
Jen, will you send an email out to us?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Be asked.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you very
Nice
much.
seeing you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys. Love
I've been
your,
honored to be here. I'm really looking forward to working with all of you. I think this is gonna be something that's gonna be shining about Marathon County, as we finally have the resource to really help out with the population.
Thank you.
thank you, Wally.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, unfinished business, item 10, acknowledge project plan list and tables for inclusion in TID 2 proposed project plan amendment. This yours,
Just
Mr.
put this under two items under one brief report, but based on the last meeting we had, this would be the form of the project tables that would be proposed to go into the project plan amendment or TID number 2. Originally, that project number 2, in the original notice that went out, was incorrectly listed at $4.5 million. So that table has been corrected now, and the total at the bottom is 4.25 million, or 4,250,000. And that just carries down into the next table 2. So that's based on, again, the input that we received at the last meeting. So I guess just looking for your acknowledgement that that is what was intended from the last meeting.
I thought that dollar number was higher.
Keith, I gotta ask a quick question. When I looked at this, is this the end all what we can submit into the state? There's no way to find, this is the limit of the funds that can be utilized for that, if that's what you're proposing?
So we have 750,000 that we put in there as a first priority for acquiring land. As has been explained, we can, and I think it's also reflected in the footnote that the money could potentially be shifted from one project to another, but
That's what Greg said you guys were gonna do, that there's gonna be some flexibility in here, right?
right, I think
Okay.
that would be reflected in the language and the footnote on the table and so forth. So we restricted then the infrastructure projects to, besides the land acquisition, to Schofield Avenue itself between Birch and Normandy. And then So there's 2.75 million for development incentives. And then the other comment that will be incorporated in the project plan would be the desire to spend money first on development incentives.
Are you clear on this?
I'm clear.
Confused.
I'm confused.
I am not confused because I wanted flexibility. And if you make that thing go up one more spot, yep. I was the most confused last week when I didn't understand how those numbers worked. And so the 5850 is in the project or spent now. And the 8083550
It's a total of 1 and 2.
is what we're doing.
That's the total, yeah, the total additional.
I got it now. I was looking at the chart above this and I wasn't
And there was a lot of lights that hit me last week and and then if we don't spend it, we don't spend it.
Right.
Or if something doesn't fly, it doesn't fly.
I think the other number that's confusing could potentially be is the other first initial attempt was 13 million as well.
Oh, yeah, I didn't understand that.
I know,
Most of it.
so it almost looks like that, but if you take everything out, and the first one, we didn't have the existing in there, I don't think. It was just a initial, one was 13 million plus. This other chart has what was spent, which makes, I understand it.
I think the table's always been that way. We haven't explained it or
Yeah, I didn't want to go there.
explained it very well, but, you know,
But I would say, I would agree with that.
but the 8.08, just 8 million plus is the additional proposed spending to be authorized by the plan amendment.
Don't keep this, you don't have to identify,
Or to be at least identified, I should say.
1 and 2 are things you have to identify because you're saying up to that amount. And the remaining TIF, the 2.75 in development incentives, does that have to be indicated on the table when you send it?
I was just gonna ask.
Well, that's in, there's certain things that Greg said couldn't be moved around. So you had to have certain things in certain buckets. And that I was, I kind of walked out of that meeting definitely done. But,
What was the meatloaf?
meatloaf was dry. Lot of ketchup.
So, yeah,
I couldn't help it. I'm not gonna lie, it was very dry. It was my fault, not hers.
so Greg would rerun his financial projection, verify the 8 million, whatever would be supported by the TID and any projected minimal development, I guess, that's needed at this point to support that. Right now, it's close to that, I believe, 7 point.
So I guess I'm gonna ask that question. It was talked about in the last meeting. As far as, and maybe I'm bringing up a sore subject here. I understand the need for the well or the repair. There was a percentage of what could be considered Schofield Avenue because it does feed Schofield Avenue, right? So if it was 20% of that, what it fed, did we eliminate that?
The way this is written, it's taken out, yes.
And is that the right thing for our community to do?
Well, Hussein Zagami is back there and he called me and he is adamant that water is a much higher priority for this community than currently how it's being.
In light of the current things that are going on, as far as, we may come up against the wall and say, hey, you have to fix this.
But I understand that, so just if we put it in there, it doesn't mean we have to utilize it.
Correct.
Okay, so, but I was against using 100% of it, I think.
Well, you
I think
can't use 100% of it.
He said it was up to 20 to 25%. Just help me out here with this water utility, the utility.
Okay.
Can the utility, seriously, $30 to $40 to have whenever I want water and to have my waste gone, I camp all summer long, I'd pay $100 a month if somebody would take all the crap out of my camper, but.
Utility could finance the project.
Right.
On rates. If the TID contributes to the project
Makes it.
it becomes a contributed asset that doesn't affect the rates. It would be paid for through the TID, so it could hold rates down to some degree.
I
So that's the philosophical question. That's,
What's this?
Our consultant who was here has made comments in the past in the finance committee talking about the bonding when they're issuing the bonds on how low our rates are, how low our expenses are, how low the costs are. We already have the ability under the utility to fund the water improvements, the wells that are, the people that are using the water pay for that. Whereas if you're outside of the district and you're not using the utilities, having it paid for through the TID actually saddles them with some of that expense. And I don't think we should be subsidizing the utilities through our TID. I'm just saying that it goes against the grain a little bit here. That if somebody has the ability right now to increase our rates to pay for it, the users pay for it. That
Should be in the right bucket is what you're saying.
You're right.
I was gonna say and that was you said that perfectly. That's what I was trying to get at on Monday night last week. I don't think that we should be paying for that with TID funds. I don't agree with that. I just got, the last water bill I had was like $140. And I've got some people I know who live up in the city of Wausau, have a smaller house, less people live in there, and their bill is double that. I'm not the first one to say that we should raise rates, but I definitely think there's some room.
Mr. Garrett?
Keith,
To do something else
how
there.
are our rates comparison to our neighboring communities? That's where I was gonna ask earlier.
Well, why don't we get this approved?
yeah, so right now.
That's a whole nother discussion, but I agree with you, Gary.
But I think that has to do with whether or not we,
We're low, we're
I
low.
think,
We're low.
but I always try to stay away from that because every utility is different. Yes, we need some treatment, and we are planning to do some projects where we would add treatment at well 5 and well 1. Well 1 and well 5, and also developing 2 new wells on Camp Phillips Road. So those are all things that are in the capital plan for the utilities. Would it have been possible to potentially have some funding through TID? Yes, but we've taken it off the table. It is no longer in this project plan.
Okay.
Okay?
so you're happy with that, and is that the right thing to do for the community?
This is the decision of the planning commission. Would I advocate to try to include some potentially, but if that's not what we want to do, we have other sources. We have a fund balance that the utility can utilize that we can, tap into some cash reserves that could also be used to help hold rates down too. So.
They also have the ability to bond for construction.
Right. That's most likely what will happen now that, and there's also potential to get some safe drinking water loans, low interest loans, potentially grants now with some of the stuff coming out there, so.
Even some of the money we've already gotten, from what I understand, they took all the restrictions off. As far as what you could spend it on.
So, yeah, that's another option. We could consider using our ARPA money for this if we wanted to, for the water projects.
Yeah.
We got timing.
So do we need an acknowledgement?
I think if it's not in here as far as using it for any of our water utility, it's not in here.
I understand, I just wanted to make sure we as planning commission are making the right decision. I thought before that the 3.5 million was, they're looking for all 3.5 million to be put in. If I would have been understanding that it was 10 or 20% of it, that would have taken care of Schofield Avenue of the $3.5 million, I might have had a different opinion, because they still need to have water and it needs to be taken care of.
Correct.
So, at that point, then I guess I would have to say that I might have a different opinion with that. But I also understand Steve's point as well. So I just want to make sure that
In deference to the taxpayers, it should be out.
So
Right.
as far as I'm concerned, we're gonna fix this water situation no matter what.
That's what my understanding was.
Yeah.
Correct.
Either finance it through bonding, through the water utility, or because water's important, and you find out how important it is when your well quits working, or your septic system backs up. Same thing can happen on municipal water. We need to make good, clean water available to everybody who needs it. And it's a lot cheaper than drilling a well and putting in a septic system.
And you're right, Steve, and you're right, Joe, it shouldn't be on the burden of the taxpayer that has a septic and well. Right?
Right.
It shouldn't be.
And I'm just gonna ask one question in that regard. Are they getting a benefit inside the TID if we improve it that they're not paying for to some extent?
They'll just be paying for the rates. And all
Water
the
usage.
customers, it's gonna come back to everybody on rate.
So the answer would be no, essentially.
So even though I'm not in TID two, I will pay for it. Because I'm on the utility, which is fine with me personally. I can only speak for myself.
But you might be consuming the other some of the other 80% of it. You might get flushed over to you or whatever it may be. So I agree with you and you, Joe, or anybody that's understanding of it, that let the utility pay for it, let the taxpayers that are on the utility get charged for it, instead of the people that aren't on it and are still in the village of Weston that are paying for that increase on taxes. Right? So.
Eventually, when their system fails and they have a water and sewer line in front of their house, they're gonna have to hook
Yeah,
up.
yep, perfect. Understood. Thank you, Keith, for that.
Okay.
What are you looking for?
I acknowledge the chart, I would assume, acknowledge these two charts. Is that what you're looking for, Mr. Downey?
Acknowledgement, this is the project plan to be included in the draft amendment that will be.
Move to acknowledge.
I second.
We have a motion by Maloney to acknowledge the plan list and tables for inclusion in the TID proposed project plan amendment. Second by Mr. Cronin.
Yes.
On the question, Mr. Gary.
This will be presented to, again, we'll go to another meeting. Right? And-
There'll be a public
Public
hearing.
hearing.
That's our next item,
Yep.
to determine what date we want to hold that.
All right.
So today I found out that I should have the document prior to the 7th or on the 7th of March. I have to have the draft document, has to be available the date that the notice is published. So I have to be able to have that ready for people. So I'm thinking that it would be sometime probably the week of the 14th of March or later. It gets into some spring break for some people, I think, too.
You wanna have our regular meeting at,
Well, I was thinking about that, but, I mean, we could, you're gonna have a pretty full agenda already, on the 14th. So you may not wanna do it in conjunction, but it's up to you. I've got a couple.
we could do a Monday, Tuesday or something. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me.
I'm gone from the 15th to the 24th, just an FYI.
We have a motion and a second. Anything else on the question? Other than we're trying to figure out when to do this.
Yeah, but that's 11. We're not done with 10.
Right, we're not done with
So
10.
I call the question. Or the acknowledgement.
Right, I'll second that call for question. On the motion to call for the question, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So vote on the motion to acknowledge project plan list and tables for inclusion in TID two proposed project plan amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried. Item 11, set public hearing date for TID two project plan amendment.
I kind of shut all that off, so when can you do it again, Jen?
It sounds like I'm gonna have the draft document on the 7th. I have to have it available.
March.
Of March, so we can pretty much do it anytime after that.
Okay.
I guess you could send me the dates you're not available, I could do a doodle poll.
Doodle poll probably would work.
Um,
Anybody have a problem with doodle poll?
Tying it down a little bit more with, Greg Johnson didn't respond, so some of it is him getting, some numbers together too.
And then, is there any restrictions at Dale's, or are we having it here?
It's up to you on where.
I think we should have it here.
I think it
Maybe
could
we
probably
should too,
be
because I
here.
think the sound system over there is not very good.
No.
Do you think we'll have enough room, Mark?
I anticipate it that large or less. That's me.
From the last time we had.
Yep. And we certainly have that much room here.
I don't know if this is the right time. I had one comment I wanted to make in regards to when we have that, can we have staff prepare a chart that shows what the amount of taxes is on a, say, $200,000 home today? And if we close the TID, what their taxes would be. Because I was under the misperception, I think maybe others are, that if you close the TID 2, it's gonna be this windfall for their taxes. And I realize it's not now. But I'd like, I think that's would be very helpful and to be able to explain that to people, like, just because you close the TID, your taxes are not going down by 10% or something.
Well, you also need to include the impact that it has on other taxing jurisdictions as far as what comes on your
Good point. But they would go up if we closed it and had to redo the road.
But they would go up and, yeah, and I would like to have some of that information to be able to show some of those people that potentially will arrive against it. You understand, just so you can explain, you can show them and say, look, it's, if you're thinking it's this windfall, it's not. This is why.
Maybe a timeline on the road too, like, I think people are gonna automatically assume that we're gonna reconstruct it next year, and that's not the case. This is gonna be, what, 7, 8, 9 years down the road, I don't know.
Michael, can you help with that?
I think we have it listed as 2025 right now, so some of that, so I guess somewhere around 2025, 26, 27. Some of it might have to depend too, if there are limitations, if we have to have I guess I'm not sure how that works, Keith, again,
Has to be committed to.
It has to be committed to, but not spent by
Correct.
26, so I guess, yeah.
You have to have a signed document, either with a construction or.
Yeah.
We not have to spend it, but it's gotta be a commitment prior to that date.
Correct, yeah. But yeah, it wouldn't be any sooner than 25, I would say right now, likely after that.
Okay.
So do the poll it is, right?
Yes.
All right, good.
Okay, new business,
None.
none. Staff reports, items 12 and 13.
Should be of 2022, not 2021.
Move to acknowledge 12 and 13.
Motion by Maloney,
A second.
second by Garrett. On the question, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried, thank you. Miscellaneous, this is yours, Jen?
Yeah, so these are the projects that are still with Steve. I may look at sending you all out that park impact needs assessment so you can start reviewing it and then we can start talking about it again. The Parks Committee did start looking at it. The biggest thing with that is that we have to come up with a number for the parkland dedication. And if you remember, back a year and a half ago, we broke them out into two different things. So one's for actual parkland and the other one is for park maintenance. So there'll be two fees. So the study gives us a maximum amount that you can charge. So the commission is gonna have to decide what they wanna charge for that. So you can look at it, we can talk about it, but I will probably introduce that at the next meeting. The Metro-wide housing study, still have not heard anything about that. I am going, I believe it's next Tuesday, to something that the state is doing for affordable housing. There's basically a seminar in Plover concerning this new guide that's come out from the state. So the morning session is for basically plan commissioners. If you're interested, there's 3 of them. Okay, you noted out. That's for elected officials and plan commissioners. The afternoon session is for staff. So guides look at that. They will be releasing and they're going to go over it with us. There will be a Zoom option, I guess, later on explaining about it, but the state is very much looking at affordable housing and how to help communities do that. We will have to do a comprehensive plan update for the CORP, which is the Comprehensive Outdoor Rec Plan. I still need to talk to Sean on what his time frame is with that. As part of that, I'd like to update the future land use map and some other things that have come up from those corridor studies that we've done so that we can incorporate those into the future land use. And then at the last meeting, I think it was Roy that brought up just kind of wanting to know what was going on since we do review a lot of this in-house as staff. Valerie puts together the certified survey maps and site plans every month, so you can kind of see that, but I just kind of want to talk a little bit about some of them and what is coming down the pike. So as you know, Aldi's was approved. I did get something from them. They're looking at potentially, they want to close start construction in April, and then be open in the fall. There is a little bit of a problem. Scott did meet with, the Laportes. They want to move the houses off of there, which is gonna, I think, bog it down a little bit, and maybe change that time frame a little bit. She's looking at a location here in the village and then one in Ringgold. So if she does choose a site in the village, you will know because we're gonna have to bring it to you to look at it in that location.
So that's something that the Laportes and Aldi's has to come to.
Yeah, so that, just so you know, that may slow down it opening a little bit.
Yeah, wow.
You're getting enough money out of it.
And when you
Yeah,
said the state approved, you mean the state approved the land out of the TID, right? Or TID? Is that what you said?
Hope for light.
Oh, yeah,
That's not.
I didn't talk about that, but yes,
They
we
didn't-
did get the approval
they did,
letter,
okay.
so that, yes,
They were.
it is,
Forever.
yeah. We got that the mid-January, I think.
Okay.
So yes, it is outside of the TIF now, so they're ready to go. Last week, we did approve a Caribou Coffee site, which is on the corner of Cutoff Road.
That little.
Is that where that gas station used to be?
It's where the gas station, where those little like storage
Little houses.
buildings are. So there's a portion of it that this project is going on. They'd probably be back next month for a special exception for the sign, just because it is such a small lot there.
I think Aldi's too for their sign.
Yeah, Aldi's also, I just got that, so that may be on your next meeting agenda for a special exception. I have to review it first. We are also working on a new Dollar General on J. That one we're pretty close to being done with. We also received a building addition for Nova Truck Wash on Transport Way. They purchased the other property there. They're gonna be moving some lot lines and doing a building addition there. It looks like I will have a rezone on the property next to DC Everest on the corner, the old Corey property. They're gonna be combining all those lots together and putting the new admin building up there.
Is that where Laidlaw used to be?
Yep.
It's, there was a house, an old farmhouse.
The original farmhouse.
Okay, right on the corner there.
So right on the corner, that's zoned B1, so they need to turn it institutional and then combine them all together, because I think there's 3 different lots there right
Or they
now.
took that building down quick.
Yeah, they did take the admin building down, so that is gone now.
What was the deal there? I thought I had heard there was some
It was condemned.
structural or what?
Scott probably knows more, but it was condemned.
Structural issues, in the wintertime with the snow load on the roof, ceiling tiles would all fall out inside the building and
No
the
kidding.
steel was moving that.
Every time I come out of Tommy's and I see that they're building right there in that rental, that leasing, I still can't believe it.
Yeah, so they will be asking for a rezone and then we'll get some plans for that. I've also been contacted by whoever's working on the rec center addition there, so that may be coming through too. They started asking questions about that. Sounds like it's not a dome anymore, that it's actually gonna be attached to the Green Heck Center.
It's an indoor facility,
Yeah,
huge.
so that'll be moving forward too, but I'm not exactly sure the approval process on that yet, because we haven't met with them, but they've started asking questions, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's I really enjoy, when you kind of get to hear everything that goes on behind the scenes.
Well, it makes you feel a little bit.
Makes you feel a bit better, yeah.
And then you got all that activity. I mean, just drive around.
Yeah, there's a lot.
When you don't think
going on,
nothing's going
and
on.
I guess
drive
just
through
bear
drive through
with
the
us
business park
because
over
we
there.
lost to Emily
It's
today.
unbelievable.
so-
Yeah.
And you, this spring, drive along Bird
Yeah.
Street,
Just for-
you see all those homes going on.
Or you remember the bus barn?
No.
Go and see the new bus barn. It's incredible.
Yeah, if they're on,
Yeah, so I don't know what their plans are with that building.
Yeah.
if
Yeah, Concord.
The current.
I'm sure, yeah. And when you're all done, go to Tiny Cellar or Wish and have a cocktail.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah, that's.
Item 15, announcements and commissioner remarks. Mr. Cronin.
I've got nothing.
Karen.
I got a question, and I don't wanna keep everybody here, but I just had a question on our TIF Weston Avenue, being that that's where most of, everybody's gripe is, and I think there's a misconception that, what is it, 26 or 29%, and everybody thinks it needs to be at 12%. I think, some members had made,
Oh, you mean the percentage of valuation of the village in those two?
I think Gail had brought that up in comparison to the overall state averages.
I think I have kind of an answer for that. If you take a look at all the construction that's been done.
No, I get that. I'm saying I think we should be proud of ourselves.
Yes, I agree.
All right, that's, I think how it was being presented as a negative. We're way over. We're spent way too much
I
money.
agree with you. Yeah.
And it's not, that's not how it truly is. But my question is, when we had, I believe it was Greg was here, Jen, you may have to help me with this a little bit. You could take a certain amount of property outside of the TIF that was in commercial to make residential. There was a limit on that, up to 150 or 200, whatever.
Yeah, because it was an industrial TIF.
So is there any possibility that we as a planning commission can look at a plan? And are we allowed to take some of that acreage out of?
That'll come with that land use discussion, I think. We need to look at land use in general, along the corridor, just adjusting the future land use map. We've got another area in the village that, someone would like to do some, residential subdivision on, which is adjacent to Ringgold, that we need to talk about a little bit more on just how to handle it because it's outside of the sewer area, basically outside.
Is your question, Gary, whether we should look at taking some of the territory out of TID one, but keep it open?
Or partial.
So,
There's a lot of wetland in there. There's a ton of wetland in there.
I think we need it though for
we
some
had
of
to keep the
the
boundary
calculation.
contiguous and there was some other.
That's my question, is there's some people that think that we can take it out. Can
So
we?
when I'm running a meeting, this is supposed to be remarks, and you remind me,
Yeah.
and you're running the meeting, you don't say nothing.
Duly noted.
So.
I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna correct Lauren, because
That's
I
a,
like
that's
Lauren
a
a lot.
discussion we should have.
I like him more than he likes
So,
me.
this is a board.
Gavel, sir?
Yeah,
TID one is in the board's hands.
just saying, I got
Ultimately,
ultimately,
ultimately, can we bring this conversation up so we can talk at
Have I ever had?
Strategic
Yeah.
discussion about how do we close down TID one, yes.
remarks only.
Just remember, Mark. Okay,
I know,
any other remarks? And no discussion?
Joel's next.
I'm good.
None.
Thank you. I have nothing.
My time was all taken up by somebody else.
Okay.
No comments, okay. I can move it around.
Okay. And the next regular meeting date is Monday, March 14th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
By Maloney, second by Mofer on the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Good meeting, very good meeting.